Hello and welcome to the fourth in my video series on how to make your 3ds Max life a little bit easier. For an introduction to the series, please see part 1. In this video I'm going to be talking about working with editable polys. So first thing I'm going to do is make myself a nice little box, 3x3x3. Okay, I'll convert it to an editable poly so that we can start working. First thing, dead simple, is moving it around. Now you might be used to using the gizmo, which is fine, but I would encourage you also to be aware that you can type things in. These are the world coordinates by typing them in here, so you could type in 0 for example on each of these rollers. You can also, let me move that around a sec. So these are the world coordinates. You can also type in transformations sort of relative to where it is, sort of offsets, by clicking this button and typing in, say, moving the x-axis by +5 or -5. So those are both possible. You can get these same controls by right-clicking on the select and move button here, and you get the move, transform, type in. And the same works with rotate and scale as well. So absolute world position, if you wanted it exactly 50-50-50 in your world, just type those in and there it is. Same goes for 0, 0, 0. I'm just using tab there to go between them dead quickly. Another way to position your object at 0, and this works with all rollers. If you see a roller, if you right click on it, you're setting it to the sort of the minimum amount, or the kind of, usually in these cases it'll be 0. For some things that can't go down to 0, then some rollers, then it'll go down to 1 usually, that kind of thing. So just right click on the roller and it'll do that. You can also drag a roller, and this transform typing is quite useful for making very precise adjustments if you're finding that movements here are a little bit clunky. So that's kind of useful. Okay, so let's go into moving around vertices. Let's say I've accidentally moved this off of position, but I really want all of the verts on this kind of loop to be positioned the same. I can, for example, copy and paste the coordinates, so we can see which coordinate are we talking about here. We're looking at the x coordinate, so I can copy my x coordinate from here to this one. But alternatively, if I wanted to move them to be kind of the average of where all of these are, I'm just going to go into my top view so I can see it a little bit better. Turn it into a wireframe, select all of those. Now the axis that I'm interested in is the x-axis. If I scroll down to the edit geometry rollout here, there are these 3 buttons here, X, Y and Z. These will snap them all into position. Now this will find the average of all points, so in this case it kind of moves this one a long way and all of these only a little way, because that's sort of average position, but they're now in position with each other. So I'll jump back into perspective and back to our normal box. So that these can be very useful for snapping things back into position or lining things up. These are sort of alignment tools in X, Y and Z, and you'll find that you can use them quite a lot. Okay, so another little trick that I learned is snap to grid is great, but quite often not very useful. But this snap tool does more than just snap to grid. You can actually snap it to verts of another object. So I'll show you where that might be useful. Let's say we want to cut a circle in the side of this now. Sometimes that can be easy, but if you've got complicated geometry that isn't even, this is a very flat surface, it probably wouldn't be too difficult. A way to do it without using any kind of booleaning technique is to use the snap to verts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a new spline. I could use a cylinder as well. That would work just fine, but just for the sake of argument I'm going to use a spline. I'm going to go into my left viewport just to make this, and make sure I'm in orthographic, which I am. Drag out my circle, which I can't see right now because I'm not in wires. So if I go into wires, there we go, I've got a nice circle. I want to make it round about in there. Just going to turn interpolation down, pick, let's say, 8 sides. Cylinders are a bit easier to pick the number of sides. And I'm going to just pull it out. If I go into perspective, I'll just pull it out in front so you can kind of see what's going on a little bit. We're sort of projecting that circle onto the surface of this box. Okay, so back in left view, I will select my my box. I will go into my cut tool. Now ordinarily I'd just be cutting, any old where, but we can snap where we can cut to the verts of this or verts in the scene, which are not hidden. So the way we do that is right-click on the snaps toggle to get the grid and snap settings up. And I already have vertex ticked, but you might have grid points ticked, so you can untick that and just click vertex. I'll close that and make sure that the snaps toggle is on, so just click it once to turn it on. And now I will only be able to click where there are already verts. So let's come out from the corner and just go on to each of these until we've got the cuts how we want them, and we might want to cut from here to here. And this can be kind of useful if you're just sort of cleaning up geometry or retopologizing and that kind of thing. And if I now turn off the snaps and go back into perspective, we can see that I've made a nice circle right on the surface there. So that's a cool little trick, using the snaps toggle there. Another little useful snaps toggle is the angle snap toggle. Quite often if you're rotating, if you're doing sort of inorganic objects, you might actually want to rotate by exactly 45 degrees or indeed 90 degrees is quite common too. Turn that on, and usually if you can right click and change the snap settings, but I tend to leave them as they are. They rotate in just 5-degree increments, so we can see there I just rotated it exactly 90, and that's nice and even, and I can rotate it by exactly 90 back. Dead easy, and sometimes a lot quicker than typing into your coordinates here. But while we're on the subject of subdividing our geometry, quite a useful one to use is slice plane, and this is good for making cuts that are exactly parallel to the world or to 90 degrees or that kind of thing. So I'm going to make a new cut, and obviously I could do it using connect, but let's just say that that's not possible, or the shape of my geometry makes that difficult to do or inaccurate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my editable poly. I'm going to go into edges. I'm going to use slice plane, which is down here. We click it once to engage it. We then position our plane where we want to make our slice, and sometimes it can be easier to actually work in vertexes, but whatever you find easiest. I'll show you what the vertex one looks like, because you just get the dots, which is sometimes quite nice. So we can see where that is. We can rotate our plane before we make our cut to make, and we can use this in conjunction with the angle snaps toggle, of course, to cut at exactly 45 degrees, or whatever it is I've just put that to. Or we can even type into here if we want to rotate it by 90 degrees to do something that is perfectly straight, upright. We then click slice to make our slice. We can move our plane and make another slice, and we can make as many slices as we like. And when we're done, we just untoggle the slice plane, and we've made some nice new cuts. Another way to make sort of new cuts rather than using the cut tool is use insert vertex, which can be kind of helpful. So let's say we want a vertex on this edge here. In edge or in face, this will also work. We just look for insert vertex under edit edges, tick it, and just click where we want our edges to be. And now if I go into vertices, we can see that I have those three there, and I might want to then use cut or something to connect them. Target weld, if you aren't aware of it, is very useful. Target weld allows us to weld two verts together, so if I do this one, it'll be kind of more obvious, and you can see that it kind of moved it to there, and all of the things that the previous vert was joined to will be joined to our new vert, which was sort of the combination of the two. Or we can use it to sort of simplify our geometry. Say we don't need those anymore. It's a good way to clean up your stuff. Another nice way to clean up stuff is using Control and Backspace to remove edges. So let's do that on this loop here that we've decided now is unnecessary. So under Edge, click on your edge. Now I showed you in this selection thing, and the nice way to make loop selection is to shift and click on the one next to it, and we can see we've selected this whole loop, which we no longer want. If you press delete, then this will delete the edge and anything that it was joined to, so we make a big gap in our geometry. But if we're just trying to make our topology more efficient, we can use Control and Backspace to remove that. If you use Backspace on its own, be aware that if you then go into vertex, you can see you haven't actually deleted any of the verts that were there. You've just sort of deleted the logical line, but the physical geometry is probably exactly the same. So be aware of that if you're wanting to do that. Best thing to do is Control and Backspace generally. that's often more useful. Another way to join two verts together, if you want to get the two next to each other, is weld. If you've got a lot of verts in your scene and you think some of them are inefficient or not doing anything, then weld is one way to try and grab them all. And if you click the little box there, you'll bring up the dialog. And the weld threshold is the distance between verts before it'll start joining them together. So we can see we've not, at this distance, we're not actually doing anything to our object. But at there we go. The first distance there is 81. So it looks like it's decided that these verts are all close together, and it's put those together. And sliding it up even more, it's found some more that are within this distance, and it's better to weld them. If you want a little bit of control over that, though, you can select just certain verts, and that can be a little bit safer rather than accidentally welding verts you probably didn't mean to. Collapsing is another way similar to welding, except you get a bit more control over it. Rather than if you're in the habit of using weld to bring two verts together, sometimes it's not far enough. Collapse is just a little bit quicker. In Edit Geometry, just collapse, do the same sort of thing as weld, but it will always force them to go together, even if they're not within the weld distance. So let's say we decide all of these we actually really want to be one vert, and it will bring those all together like that. Okay, let's say we've made a hole in our model, and we want to sort of bridge that together, make a flat top for it. There are a few ways to do that. The fastest way is to use border, and this only will work in certain circumstances where you've got a nice clean fully enclosed hole in your object, because the border will then be correct. And then we click cap, and that just makes one nice clean sort of top to it. It doesn't have any wires on it, as it were, so it may have made the triangulation in a way that you don't want, so just be aware of that. Another way to do it is to use, go on polygon, just delete that, is to use bridge. So if I pick all of the bridges along this side, here, like this, oh, not like that at all, like that. Then we have both sides, or two sides of our object selected, and if we bridge these, it should put them together. Now do be aware that bridge will sometimes sort of not work. That'll be because you're trying to do something which is, I guess, the equivalent of impossible. So I wonder if picking that will, no, that should work actually. Maybe picking these two will not work. Okay, so bridging those two will not work because they already share a vert, and it gets horribly confused. Okay, let's say I don't know, we've made our model, and it's a little bit wobbly. Let me move some verts around to make things a little bit more difficult for ourselves. So I've just pulled one out and pushed one in. And now this has made some sort of bad triangulation. That's because we've got polygons which are not flat. If I select this one here, hit Z to look at it a bit closer, you can see that this polygon is certainly not flat. And a way to fix that is to use the Make Planar button. Now do be aware that this can sometimes move your verts in ways that you might not want, so use it with caution, but I'll show you where that is. That's in the Edit Geometry rollout, this Make Planar button here. Click that once and it will make that plane flat. So now if we look at it, it is flat. However, it can end up making things around it not flat. So it's not a bad idea to make a little shortcut for it, something I tend to do. I think I have mine as Shift and the little key on the left of Z, and you can just run around all your geometry firing a quick Make Planar on each of them, do it enough times and they end up pretty much flat. Even if they might not end up exactly where you want them to be, but and that will help make your geometry flat. Another way to fix kind of bad geometry or uneven geometry, or let's say you've got I don't know, if you've got this really tight edge here. Let me make a kind of deliberately tight edge by, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick these ones here and I'm going to chamfer them. I'm going to chamfer them a lot. There we go. So 4 times. So we've got some really kind of overused, very, very sharp corner there, rounded but still sharp. A way to make your model a little bit less sharp and kind of, it ends up being more blobby, so do be aware of that, but it can also be used to fix bad geometry like this poly I pulled out here, is to use the relax tool, which is here. So bring up the dialog, and with this one selected, bear in mind before it was looking like that, so really not flat poly. Bring up the relax and it makes it a lot more flat, and the more iterations you do, the flatter it will become. But it does more than just flatten it, it makes it more square. It'll try and make everything in your object really square, so you can see that's becoming kind of square and so on. And if it's got a face next to it, it'll try and make it smooth. So if we pick let's pick these ones along here. I'm gonna just get rid of that just for now, and make the selection so you can see it kind of happening all at once. This is where it would be nice to know a quick way to select these things. So I just got into Q there to make sure I just am on selecting them and not accidentally moving them. I could have turned off on ignore back facing to not pick these, but I was feeling lazy, so there we go. That's the selection I want. Now if we relax it, we'll get kind of unwanted behavior at the sides, but have a look in the middle. You can see that it has made it, if I take that and you have a look, it has made these stretch much further across the geometry to try and get all of the polygons that are nearby to be as square as possible, because these were very long thin rectangles, and it makes it a lot smoother. If I pick all of the objects, the faces, then in fact if we do it enough times, this is on 4 iterations, so this is doing a lot, you can see it makes things kind of round, which might be what you're going for. So relax is quite a handy little tool for a couple of different reasons. At this point we've got probably here we go, some polygons which have more than 4 sides. We call those n-gons, is the sort of term we use. And quite often, if you might want to fix those, but let's say we just want to retriangulate them because they're not going the right direction. This one's a better example actually. So what we've got here is we've got bad kind of smoothing, because this one is going up to this corner, and there's, in fact I'll show you this. If we go into the display tab and scroll down, and if we turn off edges only, we can see where our triangulation is going and why that's not working. So this particular face has a couple of really thin triangles, and that's because there's a vert right here. You see that one? Now we could fix this by connecting those two, but I'm just going to show you edit triangulation because it's quite useful, and sometimes you don't want to just cut there. So if I go into edge and we under the edit edges section, click on edit triangulation and just click the ones we want, we can see that that's now much better smoothing because we've not got the thin triangles. You might also choose to go from this one right over to here, and that might work a little more how you might expect, and this one up to here. So edit triangulation is very useful, and you should be aware of how to use it. Retriangulate is a way that you can encourage encourage Max to try and figure it out for you. Let me make you an example object which kind of will need retriangulating. Let me think about this. Okay, if you make a sort of concave object, so let me make this an editable poly, and I'll look from the top and pull in some of these verts. We should be able to create a sort of problem situation. Here we go. So we can see, I'll just jump into perspective, we can see what's happened here is our top face is kind of going across the gap, which is because of the triangulation. It's not going in the way we would want, and the bottom is broken in an entirely different way. Yet I've not done anything other than the edit poly modifier and pulled those in that you just saw to do this. This is just how it's kind of got it wrong. Retriangulate will take its best guess at what you're intending to do, but you do have to tell Max to do it. So if I click on retriangulate now, we can see it's figured that out, and I'll show you the differences between them. Again, go into the display tab, turn off edges only. We can see we've got this vert is trying to go to this one, which ain't going to work. When we retriangulate, however, it figures out a solution which doesn't go over gaps, and the same will probably fix the bottom too. Retriangulate, there it is, dead easy. Only a couple of things remain. Let's see, if we're making something like a bowl, I guess. We've made it from a sphere, and we want this bowl to be, we're not interested in the outside of it, we're only interested in the middle. Maybe we've made this very, very big, and it's encompassing our entire scene, and we want everything in our scene to fit in a bowl. I will just delete the top of this, so use the left viewport to get a nice orthographic view, delete all of these, scale all these in. We've got a kind of a dish that everything is sort of sitting in. You see that? Okay, but we've got a problem because our faces are the wrong way around. That easy fix. Go into polygons. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to use flip. And now our faces will be pointing the right way, which is what we're wanting. A couple more things. Use working pivot. If we're wanting to rotate something around a particular point, one way of doing that, let's say I want to move, let's move this loop of quads, and I want to, for whatever reason, rotate it, except I can probably still do that. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, let's only move half of it. I'm trying to make a problem situation here, even though there really doesn't exist one. Let's say I wanted to rotate those like I just did, but you can see now we're rotating them around the wrong point. And because these are only sub-objects, we can't make we can't just modify the pivot to fix that problem. What we're going to do instead is we're going to use the working pivot now. By default, I believe the working pivot, because I haven't changed this scene very much, it'll probably be in the middle of the scene. No, it isn't. How annoying. So let's go into the hierarchy and click on Edit Working Pivot. There it is in the middle of the scene. How annoying. I probably needed to click on Use Working Pivot. That'll be it. So with Use Working Pivot highlighted, go back to my my sub-objects. The selection's still there, and we can see our pivot's now in the middle, and I can rotate them just like I wanted to. Well, I say I wanted to, I'm not sure why I'd want to do that, but there are times when it's useful when working with sub-objects or other stuff. A similar technique can be used if you want to make like this. Let's say we've got this object here, and we want to make a little quad, one of our quads pop up and pop out of it. Something that people tend not to use, which is sometimes handy to do, is hinge from edge, which is this little one here. So I'll bring out the settings for that. So we pick the edge, pick the hinge, sorry, which is this one. We're going to hinge it from there. We pick the angle, and it kind of comes out and forwards. And you can subdivide it lots of times to make a kind of little thing. You know, that could be something on top of a building, one of those little air vent things. So. Or I'm sure you can find a dozen other uses for it, but that can be a really quick way to make that kind of shape which you might not have known about. Final thing is I showed you how to use the working pivot to rotate things, but also useful is in this rollout is this pull down. By default, your gizmo's pointing this way. Now in the What Have I Done video, I sort of told you how this can be a problem, but now I'm going to show you how it can also be a solution to some problems. Let's say I wanted to move this face out a bit more. Now, you might have been doing it like this, but this is kind of inaccurate. The accurate way to do it, to pull it out in exactly the direction it's facing, is to change this to local. And now our gizmo is pointing how we want it to, and pulling it up in its z-axis will go out perfectly in the right place. It won't go out at the wrong angle at all. So that can be really useful to do. Another useful one I showed you working is screen. This is more useful for kind of almost not random shapes, but just come off that by accident. But I was placing leaves on a tree, and it was really useful to be able to move them in the way that I was facing. So the benefit of the screen one is, however your screen is facing, you're moving it in exactly that way. Quite often you might have tried this sort of solution where, oh well, I want to move it kind of up this way a bit, and then towards me a bit, and then up a bit, and that can be really fiddly. Whereas if you go into screen, oh, I want to move it exactly like there, and then oh, that's not quite right there. You know, so you look at it the way you want to move it, and then it's very easy to manipulate it exactly in that fashion by just moving the camera, looking at it, and moving it just in that axis. So it moves with your camera. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you for the Edit Polys tools and tips and tricks. Our next little subject is arrangement. That's sort of placing objects in a scene, that kind of stuff. So thanks for watching. I'll see you there.